Hello, and welcome to another episode of playing Crusader Kings 3 using the hardest possible rule set. We are quite advanced in our playthrough. We're currently playing as one of Matilda's grandsons, who has been ruling as the Augustus of the restored Roman Empire for 20 years now. We've conquered a good bit of territory recently in Spain, Anatolia, into the Middle East. What we're really looking to do is try to become the strongest realm in the world. In particular, we're comparing ourselves to the Song here, who are led by a scourge conqueror and are quite powerful. You can see that he has expanded their realm. Currently, looks like they are actually attacking Genghis Khan. I think we know the last time that Genghis Khan has not seemed to be doing terribly well, partially because for whatever reason on these settings he often does not seem to get the conqueror trait, meaning he's actually weaker in combat than someone like the Song Emperor, who is a scourge conqueror. Instead, Genghis Khan has his golden lineage trait, which is very strong. He has all his special troops, but without being a scourge conqueror himself, he tends to be vulnerable to being attacked by actual scourge conquerors. As for us, we've been driving toward reforming our religion, really creating a new Christian religion. The question is, why are we doing that? And now that I think about it, frankly, it's a good question. Normally, the reason why I do that is to be part of a Christian religion that can attack other Christians using unlimited kingdom level holy wars provided by the sword. But here we currently have access to the Roman invasion of empires CB, which invades entire empires, and so is even better than the unlimited kingdom level holy war CB provided by the sword tradition. And so I suppose partly we're looking to create a new religion, partly because I haven't done it before. I do think we can create one that will help stabilize our realm, give us some additional virtues, make our vassals more likely to follow us, and partly because it does represent the sum of an increased overall power. And if we ever lose this Roman Empire CB, which I've explained last episode, I don't think we're supposed to have. I think this empire level CB is meant for a special circumstance where you take a decision to become Hellenic and try to conquer the world. But regardless of that, we do have it, so I do plan on using it. We could go conquer England, for example, and we wouldn't even need to be a different religion from them. Even though we're both Catholic, we still have the Roman invasion of empire for whatever reason. But I think what I will conquer now is likely the Empire of Maghreb down here. So why is that? Partly because Guinea is a scourge conqueror. Fighting scourge conquerors is fun. Also, they have the county of Fez here. And Fez is a very strong county that I usually like to hold when I'm doing long-term campaigns like World Conquest. You can see here diplomacy, level of devotion +1, so that gives you a good bit more diplomacy. Very helpful in managing vassals. Monthly lifestyle experience +10%. That's great. Love that. Cultural fascination progress +10%. Also helpful until you max out all of the late medieval innovations. And you'll see it is taking us quite a while to unlock innovations in the late medieval age. That is largely because we reformed, or I should say hybridized, our culture in the last episode. And we have our culture now centered on Constantinople. Constantinople has relatively low development, because there have been 2 Black Deaths that really devastated the development, and the AI is generally poor at restoring development, and so much of Greece that you normally might expect to see, have 50 plus development now is instead 10 or below. We were previously centered over here in Florence, Siena, this area where you can see that we had a smaller culture with quite high development, the Swabo Italians here, but that's no longer our culture. The other issues you might have noticed is that we have consumption, which means we cannot participate in any activities, which is sort of unfortunate. I find activities to be one of the more enjoyable things to do. Tours and tournaments, DLC was really one of the great advances for CK3, and my opinion, I think the opinion of many others, precisely because it did give you a lot more to do than just constant war. But the reality is that we don't really have much options besides war at this point, because we have consumption. So we'll make the best of that situation. I think we'll come down here and grab the Empire of Maghreb from the Scourge conqueror. But before we do that, I do want to look around the map and see what conquerors are even here. There are only 4. It seems like a lot of times in my campaigns around this point, I'll open up the conqueror list here and say, gee, normally they're 8 to 12, but they're only 4. So I don't know if maybe I should reevaluate my estimate of how many Scourge conquerors there usually quote unquote ought to be. But here we can see the guy from Song, the one from Guinea that we just saw, one from the Kamex here, quite small realm at the moment, and then the Bashkirs, who are, so they're not too far from us. They're the northern edge of the Black Sea. Yeah, so they actually border us. So what we could do is, attack Guinea, attack the Bashkirs, really just to put these Scourge conquerors in their place, and then we'll proceed on from there. See, he doesn't have much gold, which is important to note because he won't even be able to hire many mercenaries. I think, frankly, at this point, given our capabilities, even if he could hire lots of mercenaries, it would not make a difference. Our character is still progressing through the martial tree here. Once he is done with getting strategist and then getting the knight and advantage improvement perks here, we'll put him on learning, and then we want to go down to profit, because again we're looking to create a new Christian religion. We'll stop this army raising as soon as our men-at-arms load in. I clicked through that quickly, but we are a witch. Founded a witch coven early on. For this decision, I'll just avoid stress. And one of the things we want to do in our new religion, which will be very expensive, is to make witchcraft virtuous. You notice we're currently losing gold. The reason for that is because we are currently paying for a legend. As part of playing on the hardest possible rule set, we are playing with very expensive legends that spread very slowly. And I think the other thing that we have is like historical legends only, which limits the number of legends. Yeah, only historical legends, so fewer legends appear generally. The reason for that is that the player just uses legends much better than the AI does. So by limiting the use of legends, we make things more difficult on the player, a little bit easier on the AI. So we're going to go ahead and increase this, but we really need to complete it because now we're going to be losing serious gold. So 12 months, 1219, okay. So that we really need to keep an eye on. Speaking of other things you keep an eye on is, of course, our children. So always look at them and make sure they're being well educated, and specifically that we are giving them good personality traits. Our current character has overall quite good personality traits. Particularly temperate and diligent are great. When we create our new religion, just will become much better. I think just will likely become a double virtue under our new religion, so it'll be very powerful. Honest is still okay. It's a virtue for Catholics at least. All right, so I lost consumption. Oh, that's good. Not sure where the Ghanaian army is or if we'll see it. Now that we have sappers, plus engineered for destruction, plus the benefit from being an exalted warlord. So we have 3 critical siege benefits. We siege incredibly quickly. Just really tear through these counties. I'm going to take a look to see if there are any more plagues around my capital. There are not at the moment. Not sure why our budget is negative. Treasury, I should say. I guess part of that is the armies, but even if I did not have my armies raised, we'd be close to negative. I don't really know there's much he would even be able to do with the secrets. I guess I'll accept. Normally, I just have it exposed, lose a level of devotion, and regain the level of devotion by through piety. But here, I don't really think if it's one of my vassals, I would probably just let them expose it. But a mercenary captain, I don't know what he's going to be able to do with it, frankly. So, do want a cupbearer. Keep us alive. Tutor or wet nurse is no longer that great, unfortunately. Tutor is still good. I want to make sure we have good tutors. Keep educating our children. Currently our 4th character, so it's been important that we educate our children throughout, give them good personality traits, try to give them the max level of education they can get, which again, all the more important given how domain limit now works. That's primarily based on education. Wow, so Fez is like one of the few counties I did not gift. That is disappointing. What is this war? Alright, I guess we'll send our army over there. I assume this guy is not going to let me revoke his... Oh. Can we arrest him? Nope. Give him a bunch of gold. Can we arrest him? Not. I guess let's try to search for secrets in his court, see if we can get a hook. Take. Well, he might not. He's feudal, so let's see if he will. Okay, I can't demand administrative governance yet. Alright. So that's a bit annoying, and that, you know, big reason we fought this war was to get that county, frankly. We also need to distribute all these other counties. People of our culture and faith that are not lowborn. We want someone with a good education, ideally 4-star. This particular duchy has a whole lot of counties underneath it. One thing, let's look as to whether there are any nomadic territories that we might need to change to feudal. Doesn't look like it. We are playing with extra nomadic territories, largely because they tend to be more annoying as vassals, and you know, also more annoying as neighbors, you know, raiding you and so forth. So I don't think we really need to, you know, spend a lot of time sort of, you know, min-maxing who we give these to. Just, you know, giving them away to you know, suitable people of our religion and culture. Sometimes I'll try to give them to people with high stewardship, on the idea that they will generate more taxes, more gold, more income for me. But I think we're in, you know, a relatively good position here. Don't need to do that. So you see I just gave away the Canaris there. If I'd been closer to another cultural hybridization, I may have kept that and done something different with it. You know, the reason being that the Canary Islands have the Guanche culture, which has mystical ancestors, and so I often like hybridizing with that to get mystical ancestors, which is incredibly powerful. Gives you renown whenever you land house members. But we just hybridized with the Greek culture, and it's part of playing on the hardest possible rule set. We can only hybridize every 100 years, not every 50. And so it's going to be like another 80 or so years before we could hybridize again. I think there is still... No, is that it? Okay. right. At this point, we can give away your Beano just so we're within our domain limit. We'll be over our domain limit again if we can get Fez, which we'll try to do after we end this other war. Let's check on whether we can complete this legend now. 2 months. Because we have so little treasury and aren't making much, we'll hold off on trying to build any more buildings. Our financial situation is a bit precarious until we complete this legend, which we are about to do, I believe. Yes. We'll go and grab the legend artifact, and then we will keep these 2 decisions in our pocket. We talked before about when we change our religion, we will want to immediately mend the Great Schism and evangelize to the realm, which should hopefully prevent massive peasant rebellions from the religion change. Usually I don't imprison my brothers or anything of that nature. Often also don't get involved in the vassal disputes. Does remind me to look at, okay, so we can increase our administrative power. That's good. That should help our gold a bit. Also establish silk production, though it's very expensive, but do want to do that. Is there any reason to win this war? 35 gold. I guess we'll just win it just because it would be so easy to do. We're already down here. Now that we are no longer at war, we'll take a look at some of the decisions that we could do. May want to go to a grand tournament. Should be able to get him. Man, he does not want. Okay. Now can we revoke your appointment? Probably still no. Oh yes, okay, good. Great. So I may keep the duchy title since Fez does have a duchy building in it. See, development of 5 is just terrible. I mean, the reason for that is the 2 Black Deaths that have already hit the world. Really destroyed much of the development. See if the storehouse really does anything for us. I don't really think so. I think we'll replace the storehouse with the mulberry copse, the silkworm production. You really want the influence here. Good to have influence. Oh, we're still holding way too many duchies, okay. Guess we can give it to this guy. Holding the Duchy of Thrace doesn't really give us any benefits, I don't think, because there is no duchy building that you can build in Constantinople. I don't think you need the duchy to activate the Theodosian walls, but we do have some troops attached to that province, so I think let's just hold on to it for now. If our vassals get angry or agitated, we can think about destroying it. I think I do want to host a grand tournament here. You see we already have a good chunk of hostile leader experience, so really looking for an even spread again, though bow is the experience we really need, so some wit, horse. So let's do that. We're probably going to have to contribute some to the treasury here. Kind of hate using our own gold, but I think it's worth it. We get 5 contests. So the idea here is if you win, you get modifiers that increase your hostile leader experience. So we should get more experience from your later events than your earlier ones. We have these 2 wit events that should max out our wit. We have horse racing and joust, which should maximize our horse experience, and then jousting also should give foot experience. And then we have archery. I mean, the only thing I wonder about here is whether we should get rid of the horse race and replace it with the melee. We probably should. So the melee gives a lot of experience, even though it's impossible to predict who's going to win. It's always a coin flip. We will go with the best accommodations because we don't want to have some accident where we die or get disfigured. That happened to some characters earlier in our run. And there we go. After this, we may consider going on a pilgrimage, because we need lots and lots of piety for the way we want to change our religion. Here, you're always happy to take these excellent women knights. Just makes our army stronger. Do want to give them get them married to other good knights that are wandering around. Come to our court. So I normally don't like generous early in the game, but it is quite powerful later in the game. You know, where we are when you're ruling a large empire, have lots of vassals. You know, your gold situation is generally okay. You know, generous, just the diplomacy and the court vassal positive opinion is just very powerful and helping to control factions early on after your succession. One thing I'm going to look at here, I go to the temple to get astronomer. I already have that, so less need to go to the temple. Astronomer is a very useful trait, gives you plus 15% monthly lifestyle experience. And you know, the more lifestyle experience you get, the better. So this is very helpful. And again, largely focused on increasing my score as much as possible. I think given my stats and my existing hostile looter experience, I ought to win all these events, but you know, you just never know. For that one, avoid stress. Just looking for the highest chance there, which was 85%. We did win. We'll move on. Hopefully we will max out our hostile looter experience here. But you know, we may need another one later on. I mean, we have a 100% chance. Doesn't look like there's any chance of us getting wounded, so I guess we'll do that. That would be quite disappointing if that turned out to be a lie. So we do have faction. I'm guessing it's some peasant rebellion in the Maghreb. It's sort of understandable, but I'm incorrect. We have Maghrebi nomads. So for these nomads, you know, they will periodically have, you know, raiders and try to break away from you, so long as they're nomadic. So the way you fix that, you go to aid tribal development. It costs you an extremely large amount of gold, but you get a lot of legitimacy from it. Some influence, and most importantly, you know, these people go away. I mean, they're quite weak. It doesn't, you know, they wouldn't be able to defeat me in battle or anything, but it's just annoying to have to raise an army and go deal with them. So by aiding their tribal development, you know, you fix that problem. After our board game here, I'll go back and just make sure. Go with this, you know, we'll avoid stress again. There's no reason to get unnecessary stress. I'm not going to dishonor myself, especially given those odds. Guess let's avoid stress. I don't know. Don't want my score to decrease. We'll just do that. Check if there are any factions. There aren't. Usually go with this middle one to see if I can increase my score. Not by much. I talked earlier in the series that normally your vassals handle disasters like floods. At least on this level they do. I mean, that is one of the silver linings of playing at this level of difficulty is that your vassals make a lot more gold, and so they're more willing to pay for things like activities in particular, which gives you an opportunity to go to more activities. But I think because of the extra gold, they also have money to fix natural disasters occurring in the area, or even if it's not in their area, they may pay just to take the advantages of from fixing a natural disaster, remediating it. So I think that was just an unlucky result in the joust. It's quite fortunate because the joust gives a lot of foot and horse experience, and so we're going to be missing out on that. But there's really nothing to do. And then talked again before about how the melee is always a coin flip. The odds are not going to change much from 50-50. Getting some notifications here. Let's take a look at them. Okay, Dynasty Legacy. Talked before about how I almost always get the first 3 here at blood, and then at this level of difficulty, we really need every advantage you can get in warfare. So I usually complete the warfare tree, and then I go to kin, which has some very powerful ones, including this one, studious youth. Especially now, it's really important for your children to have 4-star or even possible 5-star education traits. To be able to hold on to all of your domain, since now domain limit is based on education. Usually if I'm playing a normal game, I'll get these 3 and then do kin next, and sometimes won't even bother with warfare or do it much later, but obviously a different issue here. So this isn't terribly surprising. We'll just have to deal with it. So it's a peasant uprising in the Maghreb. We'll hold off on fighting any wars until we have those rebellions have triggered and we put them down, so we don't have to worry about them. Given the odds, I guess let's go with this bottom one. There you go. Vassals took care of it. So again, we didn't win the melee. Not surprising. Just because, it is basically a 50-50 chance. Not much differentiated options in that decision. So I think my brothers have been trading back and forth. We're still in acclamation succession, trying to get primogeniture, but at the moment my brothers have been trading back and forth. The being in line for all my titles. Obviously, I would rather have at least one of my sons be in line instead. We'll have to see how that works out when they come of age, really. We're getting so many notifications because of them trading their positions back and forth that's starting to affect the speed of the game. I think let's just avoid stress, even lose stress. It is one issue with playing administrative. It does seem to really put a strain on your computer, and the game does have a tendency to slow down. I did recently get a new computer, so I'm sort of interested in seeing how it handles the later years of a CK3 playthrough. I mean, stuff is okay, not great. So 6 months away. I don't think there's much we can do to stop them. Their military strength is barely higher than mine, so whenever they do fire, I think we'll destroy them quite easily. Let's go on another pilgrimage. Let's go up to Santiago. See if we can hit some points of interest on the way there. I think we'll have a mountaineer. We certainly want experienced captains. If you've played long enough, you probably see the event where you're out on the open sea and there's a shipwreck and you all die, and your only option is this jumble of letters that sound like glug 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 or something, presumably meant to represent you drowning. And so we do not want to get that event, and to avoid it we will hire experienced captains. I think that'll be fine. We are in the late Middle Ages, so everything is very expensive. But on the flip side, we're making lots of gold, so like hard work here is just a big monthly income boost. Currently we're making 411 gold a month. Now it's 462. Now it's plus 50. That's just a lot. Mildly curious if we could do another holy legend. We could. Maybe let our gold get back up a bit. For those two, it just seems like sympathy to heathens is just better. Unless you're really fighting a lot of wars where you're depending on your levies, which it's usually not ideal. So maybe early in the game, if you're doing that, if you're tribal or something, then the faster levy reinforcement will be worth it. But otherwise, I think sympathy to heathens is the best. This one, I don't want to pay this guy any money. I'll find whoever my knight is who wandered off. Early in the game, we did have an interesting event where just in terms of people wandering off, where Matilda had selected one of her sons to be her co-monarch, and that co-monarch was on a short trip, and he wandered off into a bog and was never seen again. That was the end of someone who would have been the ruler of Kingdom of Italy and could have gone on from there. So unsurprisingly, I'm not going to appoint this guy as my heir or make him my co-monarch. I mean, probably he would die before I did, but I just I don't want to deal with any of that. So our treasury is looking much better. Not exactly sure what happened to it before, frankly. Again, some of this stuff is just really expensive at this point, but oh, that's interesting. Baghdad comes with max level martial grants. I guess we could build something in Rome. So again, I plan on giving Rome away soon. Poor wife. She had consumption not too long ago. I think we'll just do not today. I don't really want to pay the gold for that. Can we make our son just? We should be able to. That would give him his 4th personality trait, which is the maximum in terms of being able to instill personality traits in your ward. Make our pilgrimage more pious. So, you know, again, he has a pretty good selection of traits here. Generous has a downside, as does just for that matter. As we talked about, once we change our religion, I usually get the, I think it's legalism tenet, which makes your vassals more obedient to people with virtues. And it also makes just a double virtue. Sure, make this guy my steward. Got a duchy we should give away. Okay, so now we will switch to learning. I would think the scholarship focus, I mean theology, we want more piety, but I'm not sure. I think I'd rather have the development growth from the scholarship focus. And again, we're headed toward profit so that we can create a new religion. See here that I would have needed the give the dog a bone achievement. You know, I would have completed that probably a while back, actually. I think prolific is 100 dynasty members. I have almost all the achievements. Some of the ones for East Asia I have not got yet, especially those outside of China. At some point I will straighten up and get back to being 100% on the achievements, but at the moment I am not. But I do have all the all under the heavens achievements. Don't want to become reckless. Just not terribly useful. See, my brother, who is 2 decades older than me, is my current heir. Again, I'm going to assume / hope that he passes away before I do. I do worry a bit that my brothers, because they've been trading being my heir back and forth. They may have been spending, and there we go again, they may have been spending a lot of influence to do that. And so long as they are alive, I may need to spend a lot of influence to get one of my sons to be the heir to the Roman Empire under acclamation succession. Ideally, I will live long enough, 21 more years for us to get primogeniture, and won't have to worry about acclamation succession at all. But of course, we just don't know. One thing I should check is I think I left, in terms of books, I think I left the books that increase stewardship. Okay, so we want to change our books. Change our books so we have the ones that maximize our learning. I think we have 2 that are plus 40% learning. So that's what we want to do here. Yep. Speed up our learning experiences, gain as much as possible. Okay. Probably this should just be changed to giving you a notification of, the top title, which would be the Roman Empire. When the heir to that changes, I probably do want to know, but it's, obviously literally sort of taken for granted that if that top title changes, all my other titles are going to change as well, so I don't need the rest of the spam, frankly. Looks like a mercenary captain attacking one of my vassals. I think we have enough in our treasury that we can go through here and have another round of building everything. Max out that windmill there. I think in general, the development of this world is much lower than you would otherwise expect. Again, because there have been 2 Black Deaths. Which means that the innovation has gone significantly slower. At this point, I'd expect to be getting an innovation every 10 years or less, but just not happening because the development in the core region of Greece around Constantinople is so low. I think you just saw that Constantinople itself is only has a development of like 14 or 15. It should be much higher. Take this. I guess we'll just raise our men-at-arms here and try to finish this war off quickly. This is a war because I think what happened is one of our vassals conquered this. Territory here, I assume, and someone else was fighting for it. The other person that was fighting for it, didn't want to stop. They presumably got the equivalent of that notification that, you know, their opponent has changed. You know, is this, do you still want to do this? Do you think it's the best course of action? And they thought it was, apparently, even though it seems like a big mistake to me. I would think fighting me is always a very bad course of action. Not sure I'm fast enough to catch them, though. Especially with whatever general this is, I don't even know. Or maybe. Yep, there we go. So this is the same decision as for his older brother. We will do the same thing. Speaking of his older brother, I assume we can't do much more to improve him. But give him some languages. Talked before about anyone where there's a real possibility that they become my heir. Want them to have martial education. It just makes fighting Scourge Conquerors so much easier if you're martial. Maybe you could argue at this point of the game we're so powerful that it's not necessary, but you know, I don't know. There have been times I've gotten in wars with Scourge Conquerors, usually very old Scourge Conquerors who are exalted warlords and have a whole bunch of commander traits, and you don't expect them to have such a massive advantage on you, but they do, and they end up winning, even when you thought, you know, you had battles in the bag. So that's really what I'd be careful of, and having a martial ruler reduces the likelihood of something like that happening. I wouldn't want to get attacked and then have to lose because it didn't have a martial character. Certainly earlier in the game when we were fighting off Britain, if we would have had any character besides a martial character, we would have almost certainly lost that war, and which would have cost us all of Germany, which was a big portion of our realm at the time. But with a martial character, we were just able to pull out the victory and move on. All right, we're over here still. Okay. So yeah, thinking about it, I mean, I guess this building was already... Oh, come on. How are there even someone else? So I guess this war was already... I guess we were the attackers in the war. Maybe what... I'm not exactly sure how it happened that we were the attackers and then I took over. So I don't think I inherited anything. Let's see where this plague is. Okay, so up in Scandinavia largely. I don't think that's something that really concerns me. I think let's go on one more pilgrimage. Maybe even just to Rome. I don't think we've been on a pilgrimage there. Don't have to worry about points of interest. I think we've hit all of them. And hopefully this will give us enough piety to create our new religion. I think let's also go ahead and start paying for yet another legend. And legends are very expensive and take a long time. But okay, I can't give it away because it's under siege, but we will soon correct that problem. I was saying before, legends are very expensive, take a long time, so let's start it. I think we have enough gold that it won't be much of a problem, even though they're so expensive. We will destroy all these armies and then see if that either wins us the war, or if it doesn't, we will just fight peace out of this, because I don't think there's much at stake, and not much that we get by. Okay, getting 100%, but we did 1,000 gold. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. Now we have profit, so I think when we come back from this current pilgrimage, we will create a new religion. Checking in there on our main rivals, thinking about whether I have satisfied my personal win condition of being the most powerful ruler. I think the question is, do we want to replace the farms and fields or the trade port with windmills? I mean, the trade port gives more development growth, blow less taxes. The farm and fields give more taxes, less development growth, also give that holding tax benefit. It's a bit of a tough one. The manor houses give lots of gold, so I don't want to get rid of them. Really wish I had more slots here in Constantinople, but I don't. Let's replace the farms and fields, but there's not a clear answer, I don't think, to that decision. It's what I want to do. See if we can build. Can't build windmills here yet, but we can build a caravanserai, so we'll do that. And so what we want to do here for our new religion, the very first thing we want to do is convert to Orthodoxy. And the reason for that is whenever you create a new religion, it adopts the holy sites of your immediately prior religion. And we want our holy sites to be that of Orthodoxy, because we want Constantinople to be a holy site so that we can activate the Hagia Sophia Cathedral. It's very powerful, but we can't use it because we're currently Catholic. One of the things, I guess minor details I'm interested in with the upcoming expansion focused on religion, which apparently will have dynamic holy sites, is whether it will be possible for Catholics to make Constantinople a holy site, or at least somehow otherwise be able to use the Hagia Sophia. Because frankly, if I could use the Hagia Sophia, I don't even know that I would bother changing the religion. maybe I still would. See, we have increased our development significantly. Oh man, but the development around us, where our culture is spread, is just awful. Development of 4, 2, come on. That really goes to the challenges of playing on this hardest possible rule set that often you have on a regular game, these places easily have development of 60, and we just be flying through these late Middle Age innovations. But because it got hit by 2 Black Deaths, their development is terrible, and you sort of have to deal with that and adapt to it, and try to fix it. Okay, so let's stop here. We are about to take a very major decision that, if we do it incorrectly, could blow up our entire run. So let's stop and make sure everything we're doing makes sense here. I control everything. Antiochia and Byzantium are not under Catholic rule. That doesn't really bother me. We will demand the conversion or do other actions to get them to whatever new faith we want to create. Let's check our tips just to start with. Are there duchies we want to give away? Nah. What is our subject? I mean, yeah, our subjects like us. Okay. All right. So first, I will convert to Orthodoxy. Orthodoxy, holy sites obviously include Constantinople. There we go. Only cost 250. Everyone will convert. I will have that guy. Now I will create a new Christian faith. So I talked about before, we will go with legalism. Why are we going with legalism? Vassals and counties are less likely to join factions against a virtuous ruler. We should be able to make sure our ruler is virtuous, indeed has plenty of virtues. And so that's really the reason, is to cut down on the factions. I think you saw earlier that when our current ruler took over, even with our best efforts, we weren't able to stop all the factions. We had to give in to a liberty faction. With this, we should be able to prevent those factions from arising, because our vassals will like us even more. You see, it also makes just a virtue. That's something that we have in our bloodline, so to speak. My current character, it has just, his 2 oldest sons are just, and this makes just, a double virtue, plus 20 opinion, just very powerful. It does mean we don't want to be arbitrary under any circumstances, but don't plan on it. Here, sort of not surprising. So that one is something I often don't see people use a lot of. I'm a big fan of it. You can hear what I just said and make up your own minds. The other 2 tenets are going to be the much more common ones. We, instead of monasticism, we'll go with mendicant preachers. Makes temperate a virtue. That's important because, again, I'm temperate. My children are temperate. Anyone I raise, I want to be temperate. I think it's a powerful benefit, so we want that. Helps convert faith quickly, so that's also useful. And then, of course, we will go with some real CK3 action here and get ritual cannibalism. Why? It makes cannibal a virtue. Cannibal has its own very powerful benefits, including plus 35 opinion of cannibals, and it's very easy to become a cannibal. If you have someone in your prison, you can become a cannibal. And so, this really feeds into keeping our vassals happy, strangely enough, even with ritual cannibalism, and cutting down on factions. Again, here we have 2 rule changes that are significantly increasing the number of factions we have, playing on very hard, playing with lesser realm stability. After that, we are going to go equal. Why? Because I want to be able to appoint as many people as possible of my house and dynasty to positions. This is especially important if or when I got mystical ancestors, because run out of men to appoint, you can appoint women, and you'll get all that renown. Here I go fundamentalist, so that we can convert counties more quickly. It can revoke titles from people that don't convert. Clerical tradition, I leave it theocratic. I do leave a head of spiritual, head of faith. Before coronations come out, I would usually go with none. If you have none, then you can't have coronations, which hurts. I do think coronations are very useful, so long as your head of faith will give them to you. We'll go with monotheist here. Divorce must be approved, just because don't want to arrange a marriage for my children and then have them get divorced on their own. Marriage type, polygamous, definitely. Why? Again, want more people in my house and in my dynasty. So that's what we're going to do. Consanguinity, none. Why? Because it's CK3. Why not? If we want to get pure blood in, this would be the way to do it. And so that's really the reason. We don't have to marry someone who's close to us, but in case we wanted to, there we go. For these crime doctrines, we're going to make everything criminal. Don't want people murdering other people from our dynasty, so dynastic is criminal. And we will take the incredible hit to make witchcraft virtuous. So I do this normally, but of course it's especially important here because we are witches. And we have a witch coven established. Why are all these criminal? Makes it easier to arrest people and take their titles if that's what we want to do. If we don't want to arrest them, don't have to. Clerical function control, great. Clerical gender, either. Clerical marriage, we're going to allow it. Clerical appointment, we will do spiritual and revocable in case we get some terrible priest. We want to be able to fix them. Here, sometimes I go with mummification. The claim that it yields powerful artifacts seems untrue. It's usually just green artifacts. I think stoic burial with piety, that's fine. That's fine. So let's take another look here to make sure we have everything we want. I'll have to create some name. I'm not like terribly care a lot on what the name is or what the faith icon is. Let's find something that looks kind of interesting here. Ram, sure. Name. Let's just say universalism. We do want our church to become universalist. Adjective, universalist. Single follower will also be universalist. And many followers will be universalist with an S. We don't need to put in the description, so we won't. And again, we did change to orthodoxy. This all should be good. Don't really care what color it is. Here we go. Cost a lot less piety than I thought. See, we can use the Hagia Sophia Cathedral. Now, what do we want to do? We want to immediately mend the Great Schism, which we can do here already. So the people who owned Alexandria and Antioch, they already have converted with us to universalism. You can see, there's little pockets of universalism around, not that many, but now we are going to mend the Great Schism. Okay, spread a little bit, not as much as I thought it would, frankly. What was my nickname? Oh, the Ecumenist? Okay, fine. But now we will evangelize to the realm, and this should further convert people to universalism. Frankly, not as much. Yeah, I will admit, I thought there would be more of a change. So this is a little bit concerning. I guess when you drill down a bit here, you can see there is, a lot of it has become more universalist. Okay, maybe it's because I had an unpause or something, but all right. Yeah, you can see here, much of it is universalist. There are pockets of Catholicism, but it's not as bad as it looked. We can do this one, fine if he gets some prestige. Again, we'll trust this guy's judgment in the matter. I guess we'll do this option here. Don't want to go to any activities at the moment. I want to make sure we're not having any issues with our religion. And also, let's look for some more wives. So we're looking for someone who, is beautiful and has an intelligence trait. So this woman, or girl I should say, looks great. We will get betrothed to her. That really cut down the number of women we get betrothed to. We have intelligent and hale. We could take a risk on, getting a beautiful woman and just hoping enough traits carried over. I guess let's try it. And then we'll leave one space open there, actually. We'll give away Galicia. Again, I really just want to wait before I do anything because I want to make sure there are not going to be any rebellions as a result of us changing our religion, which, again, those can often happen. didn't really increase the number of people we could appoint by that much. I think when we can, we will change to wealth focus. Just happy to have more gold. Again, let's just see if everything stabilizes. When Koi Fish had a video where he was Roman emperor, maybe he was administrative. One of the things that was he was at least probably acting for his video, but one of the things that he was acting was that dealing with all the getting all the titles and having to hand them out again was driving him nuts. But sometimes I can certainly understand that. So I really like the third option there, just for the income increase. Very helpful, especially while we're trying to deal with this legend. Okay, I think we'll call it here for this episode. I'm not sure there's going to be another episode. Frankly, I know one could argue that the song are as powerful as us. I just don't think it's true, frankly. I mean, yeah, I guess they do have a decent number of men-at-arms, but if we were to go fight them, I have no real doubt that we would win. Genghis Khan, we've talked about, troops are inferior to ours. He's not even a scourge conqueror, and he's starting to head toward the grave. So I think we're probably going to call the series here. Though again, if anyone wants me to continue the series, please leave comments on this video. If I get enough people want me to continue, be happy to do that. I am about to go on vacation, so it may be a little while, but I'll pick it up whenever I get back. In terms of an overview here of this campaign, I thought it was very interesting. The start, really probably the worst thing that could happen when you're Matilda did happen to us, which is Robert the Fox becoming a scourge conqueror. And the reason for that is he's literally right on our doorstep, and it really forces you to start making decisions about whether you want to be part of the HRE or not before you want to. And what happened there is, we had to fight an independence war against the HRE with our ally really earlier than I would have preferred, because Robert the Fox was right there. He'd already taken the annoyed Duchy of Romagna and took many of our vassals. And I think like literally just a few months after we broke free from the HRE, swore fealty to him, that he then attacked the Kingdom of Italia. If we would have still been part of the HRE, we'd have lost virtually all of our territories. I think we'd have ended up with one county realm in Corsica here, and that would have been it. And then after that, again, there were some interesting twists and turns in terms of Robert the Fox and then Heinrich IV putting together a massive Holy Roman Empire that then fell apart when Heinrich IV died, split three ways. We had another scourge conqueror come from Britannia. And I think all this really shows why I enjoy playing with this rule set, which is it's challenging and you really never know what's going to happen, because where the scourge conquerors come from, who becomes a scourge conqueror, is largely random. Yes, in each uh, start date, there's one or a couple rulers always start the scourge conqueror trait, but again, largely random as to who gets it, whether they lose it, what they're able to do with it. So every game plays differently, and you really have to think and be reactive and say, okay, how am I going to handle these scourge conquerors? And eventually, you just get more. Try to build up your power while avoiding losing your realm to the scourge conquerors, and then eventually you get it to a point where you are able to take them on. It's often going to really exhaust your resources. Uh, if you saw the episodes earlier where we fought Britannia when they invaded Germany, we had to hire lots of mercenaries. We really didn't have that much gold. We hired special mercenaries. Lost that first battle rather decisively, partly because we were fighting in their territory instead of ours. We came back and started fighting in our territory, get those defensive advantages, and managed to just barely win some of those wars. And part of those victories were luck. I think we talked before about how at one point I wanted a stewardship character to be my heir, but that stewardship character wandered off into a bog and was never heard from again. So it ended up having a military character as our heir, and that was really important because without that military character was there to fight against the Empire of Britannia and their scourge conqueror, and be able to save the Kingdom of Germany for us. If we'd have had that stewardship character, there would have been no chance. I don't think we just lost the Kingdom of Germany, and that scourge conqueror in Britannia would have gotten even bigger, posing an even larger threat to us. We'd have really had to figure out how to handle him. But instead, we were able to beat him. He lost the scourge conqueror trait, and we moved on. And so again, I do hope that this shows the interest and difficulty and challenge of playing on this rule set. If you're listening to this, I encourage you to give it a try. I'd also be very interested in other YouTubers and streamers trying this rule set. I know like 6 months ago, Lath and some other people were using mods to get a more difficult experience. Those mods seemed pretty unstable at times. I would say I suggested them if they're still interested in a more challenging experience, then they can do it within the rules of the game without any mods by having frequent scourge conquerors that all inherit the trait. Doomsday plagues with unlimited black dust, playing on very hard. The -3 domain limit, the combination of all these rules, it does create a challenge. Thanks very much for watching this campaign. It will be a little while before the next one comes out, but my intent is to continue. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll watch both my future and my prior campaigns if you haven't already. Thanks again. Goodbye.